Hey everyone, welcome back to Sean Talks Wrestling, and today I'll be going over the 10 releases by the WWE. This is the first wave of WWE releases in 2025, and I'll be ranking them from least surprising to most surprising. Starting off with Giovanni Vinci is probably the least surprising of the 10 due to the fact that we haven't really seen him on television much in the last couple of months. In fact, the last time we did see Vinci was actually in a backstage segment involving Cody Rhodes and Carmelo Hayes. Vinci was an extra and didn't really do much. He was just noticed backstage where he hadn't wrestled in a couple of weeks, and people noticed that he was just part of the segment and really didn't do anything. Now, the last time we did see Vinci in action, it was against Apollo Crews in a couple matches that were really one-sided, where Apollo Crews won the first match in a couple of seconds, and then during the rematch, it lasted a little bit longer, but Apollo Crews still got the best of Vinci, and after that, we didn't see much of him at all. Now, what's confusing to me about this is that for weeks they had been building his return with these montages of him living this luxurious lifestyle, only to come back and just be used so improperly. And after those two matches, we just didn't see much of him in action anymore. What I think it boils down to is that this might be the first case of a Triple H burial during his regime. I don't really have a better explanation other than that. It seems like it's a burial all sense of the term. He got a couple matches, he didn't really do much, he was then sidelined backstage, and we didn't see any of him until we got the news of his release. We knew that the writing was on the wall once he split from Imperium, and after that he was written off television for the longest time until we finally got his return, which didn't amount to anything. For that reason, I'm placing him as the least surprising of the list, and really I think it was a matter of time before it came. Next on the list is the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, and I think pretty much for the same reason, I'm not surprised that they're gone. We haven't seen them since September, where they had that tag team gauntlet match on SmackDown, and then after that they were relegated to dark matches on SmackDown and had a couple of instances in NXT where they wrestled a couple matches and then nothing came of it. It really is a shame because I do like both Gallows and Anderson. I like them as a tag team. I like them when they were paired with AJ Styles, so to see them kind of just left on the sidelines where they didn't wrestle at all or they were relegated to dark matches, it was kind of a shame. This isn't the first time that Gallows and Anderson have been let go by the WWE. They've actually brought them back on a couple of occasions, so I wouldn't say the door is completely closed for them for a potential return later on in the future, although given their ages, I don't really see that happening anymore. It is a shame. I like them with AJ Styles, and it's just sad to see them go. On Friday evening, one of the names that caught my eye was Cedric Alexander. For those that have followed his career, he's been one of the most talented guys on the NXT roster, and it was just a real treat to get to watch him wrestle every week. Unfortunately, he was designated to an enhancement talent where he was meant to build up other stars. We saw that in the last couple of weeks with Ethan Page, where he took the loss, but looked really good, and he made Ethan look good as well. So again, not that surprising to see him go, but it's just a real shame. I like Cedric Alexander a lot. I think he's a really talented guy, and now there's rumblings online that he might be heading to AEW, potentially for him to come to AEW to join the Hurt Syndicate, which would be an interesting twist. Currently, the Hurt Syndicate is complete with MVP, Bobby Lashley, and Shelton Benjamin, who are kind of up there in age, so to get a slightly younger talent in Cedric Alexander would make them look good, and I just like the idea of Cedric Alexander joining them. I think it would help the Hurt Syndicate even further with their story in AEW, and it would just be fun to watch. Another name that caught many people's eye was Sonya Deville from Pure Fusion Collective, and it's one of those cases where I'm not that surprised, but at the same time it's a little intriguing to see them get rid of her after so much effort was put into her as well as Pure Fusion Collective. For so many weeks we saw the argument being made that Pure Fusion Collective just couldn't get over with the crowd. They would come out to not much of a reaction from the crowd. It was kind of dead silent when they would make their entrance, and on top of that, their booking kind of was a mess at times. They were seen backstage looking very imposing and making threats towards the other talent as if they were really trying to build him up as a threat, but when it came time to follow through, it was a mixed bag whether they would win or lose, and most of the time they ate the loss. Now, we did see potential with Zoe Stark as well as Shayna Baszler. Sonya Deville was more on the sidelines, kind of rooting them on and serving the team as kind of a manager approach. We didn't really get to see her in the ring all that much, and when the opportunity was there, she wasn't included. Take the Intercontinental Championship tournament, for example. She wasn't in that, and I think she made it pretty clear that she wasn't too happy with that either. Now, where she goes from here, I don't really know. I don't see her going to AEW, although they have been bringing in a lot of talent lately, so perhaps the opportunity is there for her, but for now, I don't see that happening. Again, not that surprising this year ago. I think the writing was on the wall for quite a while. I do give props to Triple H for giving them a chance to really get over. It unfortunately didn't work out for them, and now we'll have to see where Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler go from here. Up next is a trio of talent, and all of them come from the Final Testament. We have the Authors of Pain, Akam and Rezar, and Paul Ellering. So starting off with the Authors of Pain, I think this one was a bit more of a surprise to me because I didn't see it coming from a mile away. I thought that they were doing pretty good work with Final Testament and Karrion Kross. If you look back to the last couple of months, we haven't actually seen them all that much in ring. And when they do get a match, they're on the losing end. They've been kind of made to be an enhancement talent in the sense that they're not going to win every match. In fact, they're not going to win many matches at all. But the point of them is to look really strong and make the baby faces of the match overcome their strength and overcome their power and eventually win, making them look good in the end. Unfortunately, there's some sources going around that are saying that there's heat on them, that this has been going on for a while about some sort of payment being made and not being paid back. This is coming from multiple sources. I can't confirm them. I'm just a fan watching at home. But it's interesting to note that they're the first of the releases that we have heard that there is some backstage heat. Now, the third part of the trio is Paul Ellering, who has served as the Final Testament's manager. The thing about Ellering is that he was actually brought into the group at the request of the Authors of Pain. He was kind of let go a while back and then brought back into the fray and served as the Final Testament's manager and mouthpiece. But I guess what it boils down to is that because they let go of the Authors of Pain, they're also going to let go of Paul Ellering. There really is no need for him when they're getting rid of the Authors of Pain, which makes sense, I guess. But now with the release of the Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering, the Final Testament has been reduced to just Karrion Kross and Scarlett. So we're going to wait to see where they go with them. If you watch the last couple of weeks, Karrion Kross has been kind of that intimidating presence backstage where he's leaving little bits of seeds of doubt in the minds of people like Sami Zayn. So I guess from this point on, he'll continue on that path alone with Scarlett, and we'll see where he goes with Sami Zayn and any other superstar that comes across him. Moving on to the final two, I'm going to start first with Blair Davenport, as this was one of the biggest surprises, and it actually made the IWC kind of pissed off. So if you remember back in 2024 when the WWE had the draft, Blair Davenport was selected to go to SmackDown, and it was seen as a move where they were giving someone a chance from NXT, and it was a big deal for her at the time. And in the first couple of weeks that she was there, she was given a chance to get some in-ring action. She participated in at least 3 or 4 matches and showed that she could really stick with the rest of the roster on SmackDown. After those 4 matches, we didn't see much of her on television at that point, and it was a wonder whether she would get another match later on or if she was just being written off. It got to the point that people started to forget that Blair Davenport was even on the roster. So when the announcement came that Blair Davenport was a part of the 2025 releases, a lot of people were upset about this because she wasn't given much of a chance at all, and it made her call up from NXT to the WWE main roster feel kind of pointless. It had that feel from the old regime where people were being called up from the NXT roster to the main roster, and either they were left in catering or they were given a couple matches and then left to the sideline. And it was really disappointing to see that happen again with the Triple H regime. It feels like this might be the first blemish on his track record when he's running things, but maybe there's more than meets the eye and there's just something working on backstage that we don't know about. From the fans' perspective, this is just a really disappointing thing to see, and you have to wonder how many more superstars are backstage right now that we don't see on television that are potentially running into the same fate. And finally, that brings us to the last person on the list of releases, which is Isla Dawn. Isla Dawn's release was made known on her own Instagram in a post where she made mention that she isn't here for a long time, she's here for a good time, and that we'll see her in 90 days, indicating that she's been released from the company. As you know, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire made the tag team the Unholy Union. They were involved in that triple threat match at Clash of the Castle, where they actually dethroned the then tag team champions Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. The next couple of weeks, they were involved in some matches. They looked pretty good, where they brought some prestige to the tag team division. Unfortunately, they relinquished those titles at Bash in Berlin, where they lost it back to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And at that point, we didn't see much of them on SmackDown anymore. Aside from a couple little matches here and there wasn't much going for them at the time. Now, if you remember when Blair Davenport was brought in, they actually paired her with the Unholy Union, where they opposed Jade, Bianca, and Naomi. but in a losing effort, they kind of just vanished from that point on, and we didn't see the Unholy Union again after that. Now, we did get some glimpses of them in NXT. They had that match a few weeks back to determine the number one contender for the Women Tag Team Champions. They unfortunately lost, and then they vanished once again. Now with the news of Isla Dawn being gone, that leaves Alba Fire kind of on her own, and there's now speculation among the fans that she'll be given kind of a singles push where she can show off her talent there. She is known more as a singles competitor, so it'll be interesting to see if they utilize her in that sense, or if she's going to be stuck in catering and eventually released by herself as well. I will say that this release, along with Blair Davenport's release, are two of the biggest blemishes of the entire list. I think that in Blair's case, it was kind of a matter of her being called up to the main roster and then just being left to scraps. And in Isla's case, it was a matter of her winning tag team gold with Alba Fire and then just being let go. And it kind of makes you wonder where they're going with the women's tag team division. So that does it for the first batch of releases in 2025. And I'm interested in knowing what you think about this all. Obviously, there's some releases that I think everyone can agree we saw coming, but then there's others that caught us all off guard. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought about the releases, and I'll be sure to check every comment. As always, if you like this video, click like. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to hit the bell to receive all notifications on future videos. This is Sean signing off, thanking you for watching this video, and reminding you to always be kind to one another and stay safe.